This morning, the assembly line at God's Love We Deliver, helping hands, preparing much-needed meals. But this holiday, it's not just the sick, but the able-bodied, laid low by a virus that has crippled household incomes, leaving more families food insecure and exposing an issue that predates the current health crisis.
There we go.
From coast to coast, a steady stream of need. Food banks and pantries doing all they can to make sure families have food on the table for Thanksgiving. This line of cars in Texas, an example of the pain, historic during the pandemic.
And we see these images of cars lined up 3 hours, 4 hours long. And we look at this, and if this was the news and we saw this and this was another country, what would we think of that country?
New York chef Tom Colicchio, one of several anti-hunger advocates taking part in a virtual news conference put on by Hunger Free America about the hunger pains in both the city and areas upstate. HFA Food Action Board member Natasha McCrae has been living through it in the Bronx.
Some of the things that we had experienced was the extremely long lines through pantry lines, also the inability and flexibility of being able to order online using EBT. And also the price surges for food in our local neighborhood stores.
Hunger Free America surveyed the usage of soup kitchens and food pantries statewide and conducted a poll of low-income Americans.
We found that in New York City and New York State, we're facing the greatest hunger crisis really in modern times, with food insecurity ravaging rural, suburban, and urban parts of the state.
Hunger is not new in America. It's estimated there were 35 million people relying on food banks each year before the pandemic. And the pandemic, advocates say, could cause as many as 54 million Americans to experience hunger this year, including a quarter of all children. At the heart of the frustration is the food stamps program, SNAP. As hunger and SNAP recipients have increased, the Trump administration has failed to boost the program as the Obama administration did during the Great Recession, and has continued to pursue cuts to its eligibility.
In New York, before the pandemic, 1 in 8 rural families and 1 in 7 families in metro areas relied on SNAP to purchase food. The need for assistance has grown dramatically over the last several months, and the program has not received the resources that it needs to meet that demand.
These advocates say providing turkeys for hungry families on Thanksgiving is one thing, but tackling hunger for the days after and in the long run is where government needs to step up.
5,000 turkeys fed 5,000 people tomorrow, and that's a beautiful thing. But people are going to be hungry for days, weeks, and months on end. And this is not new to the present federal administration, right? This has been going on for a long time.
These are Americans that are going to bed hungry every night. These are American children who are struggling. American parents who have to make a decision between feeding themselves and feeding their children. We could do better.
Now, the advocates were calling on the Senate to pass the HEROES Act, which was passed by the House 192 days ago, which would increase SNAP funding by 15%. Now, just think about this. The city's food pantries and soup kitchens have fed 65% more people in 2020 than in 2019. And by the way, if you need help finding a meal, you can go to nyc.gov/getfood.